Hello, everyone. This is Margie Stelzer with Community Farm Alliance, and I welcome you all today to our webinar about how to attract low-income customers to your market. For those of you who are joining us on our YouTube channel, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of who Community Farm Alliance is and our mission to organize and encourage cooperation among rural and urban citizens through leadership development and grassroots democratic processes to ensure an essential, prosperous place for family-scale agriculture in our economies and communities. And this webinar has been possible through a grant from the USDA and other partner organizations, so we really appreciate that kind of support. Today, I wanted to just show you a little about what the Farmers Market Support Program offers to our members, and in particular, our Farmers Market Toolkit. This is something that we developed over a year, just listening to what our markets needed and what new markets needed. So it starts with just the bare minimum here. So most of you all probably already have this under your belt, but if you are in contact with someone who is just starting a market, this is a really good place to start. The second section of starting a market, creating a firm foundation. Most of you all should have this, although I do find that some folks might have their bylaws in place, but not a business plan or a marketing plan. So this is a good place to go just to get some basics of how to walk through that process. Most of you all should have your business structures, but if you're thinking about changing your business structure, this Farmers Market Toolkit, Legal Toolkit is a really good resource to help you make sure you're doing that within the law. So it has all kinds of different resources for your farmer's market, and it was written by some lawyers in Vermont, I believe. So setting up your governance, and this is another area, choosing a market site that you might already have a market site but are thinking about changing it. This has some really good tools for you to use when you're choosing a new market site, but also on our YouTube channel, where this, some of you who are joining us on the YouTube channel, you already know about this, but others who aren't yet familiar with it, we have all our webinars here. And the last one we did is Farmers Market location. And this is a whole webinar if you're wanting to change where you're located, how to do that. And so at the bottom of each page, you can hop to the next section. So stage 2 is operating a market. And just quickly through that is creating your marketing plan, which is something you should do every year at the top of the year. So to start thinking about that. Branding is something that people think it's just what your logo is, but it's so much more than that. It's about what you're projecting out to the world of who your market is. And so I really encourage you all to look at these articles and webinar, because this is going to affect the program you do, how you promote yourself, all that kind of thing, to make sure you have a consistent message going out across all platforms. Event planning, music. This has been a conversation on some farmers market groups about licensing. If you are a larger market, you have to be very careful of what your musicians play to make sure it's either original music or something that's in the public domain already. Otherwise, you owe money to the artist. So other things like charting a kids club and volunteers, and then growing your market. Hiring a market manager. This is something that we often are helping our markets out with, just how to write up a job description, labor law, how to train your market manager. There's a farmer's market training manual here that comes from New York. That's very nice. We have webinars, of course, to help you train your manager. And then K-Card is a really good resource for that. Developing community partners, that's another thing that we really help a lot of our markets with, especially with getting financial support. So we have a webinar and blog about that, of how you really expand your market there. And then fundraising, which is kind of linked into community partners and grant funding. All these different grants that are available for farmers markets are in the toolkit. And how to start a Friends of the Market. The number one request this year is how do we grow the number of vendors at our market? So these are all different ways that you can help your vendors grow their business, because when you have successful vendors, you have more diversity and you have more stability in your market. It's also a way to connect new farmers in helping them make that jump from just selling off their farm to selling at a farmer's market. And this is low-income outreach, which, of course, Jackie will be getting a lot more into, but these are some of the things you need to know about doing a summer food service program and other low-income outreach things. So let's see. There is one more about evaluating your market that's not showing up here. Let's see if I can find it here in the table of contents. There we go. This is one thing that often gets missed, and this is the time to start thinking about doing an evaluation of your market. There is a toolkit here, how to use your farmers market metrics and farmers market assessment tool. I really encourage you to take a look at so you can see where your strengths and weaknesses are with it. And of course, K-Card can help you evaluate your business, do a marketing analysis, business management, and operation analysis, and things of that sort. So that's our toolkit. It is on the Community Farm Alliance website under the Farmers Market Support Program webinar, webpage, excuse me. So the next thing I just want to quickly go over is the toolbar. For those of you, this is the first time you're using it. You all are muted, but if you do have a question, you can just press that raise hand and we will recognize you and unmute you if that is how you want to do it. The other way you can ask a question is right here under the questions bar. You can just enter your question right there. And I think that is it for the introductions. The main bulk of our conversation here is going to be Jackie Walters presenting about attracting low-income customers to your market. She is a extension specialist for nutrition education programs, and she has over 15 years experience, I think, with UK, but I will let her do any more introductions on that. And before we get started, I'm going to launch a poll here. We're just trying to get an idea of what kind of low-income outreach programs you have at your market. And it's just a multiple choice. It's going to be in two sections. One is your incentives that you offer, and the other is the children's programming that you offer. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. And if you could, just check all that apply to you. I'll give you a little bit to do this. Okay. Did I launch the right one?
Actually, actually, we meant to have the other one first.
Okay, yes, let me see. Let me try this again. I just clicked the wrong one. I am so sorry, folks. That was the last question. Let's try this again. This is the first question here. Here we go. Does your farmers market provide any of the following services for low-income audiences? And I'm so sorry about that. Okay, it looks like most people do, most markets accept senior farmers market nutrition vouchers. And second most is EBT, or second most is WIC, and third most is EBT. Many provide incentive programs like Kentucky Double Dollars and pharmacy, and then there's some who have other. And those of you who checked other, if down in the questions you could say, you could answer what that other is, so we have an idea of what other kind of low-income outreach you have. And then I'm going to go ahead and launch the second. I hope I will. Nope. Yeah, close. Does your farmers market provide any children's programming? Is that showing up?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, it looks like a lot of you do power produce, and some have a summer feeding program, and others have an other. So once again, if you, down in the questions box, if you could let us know what the other children's programming that you do, that would be great. And thank you all for voting and giving us that information. I'm going to hand over the presentation to you, Jackie.
Okay. I don't see the invitation to take the screen yet, though.
Yes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll, and then you'll have it, I think.
Oh, okay.
Do you have it yet?
Nope. Not, at least I
Okay.
can't see it. I do.
Hmm.
Aha, there it is.
All right.
Oh, great. You see my email. And we went through this time and again, time and again. Okay. Hold on just a second. I will switch my screens again.
There we go.
Okay. Now, if it will just let me advance screens. Well, as you can see, I'm a bit of a novice at this particular system, but I am so happy to be with you here today to talk about this program that we have invested 3-4 years in bringing together. Oh man, now it's not letting me. There, okay.
There we go.
This program is a culmination of 3 years of research, and we used a social marketing approach called community-based prevention marketing. Basically, what that's about is making sure that we understand what drives our target audience. In this case, low-income Kentuckians. Our program is funded by SNAP-Ed and FNEP, USDA programs, and we are all about trying to get our audience to eat more fruits and vegetables, and we would love to see them eat more fresh, local fruits and vegetables. So we wanted to find out what would encourage our target audience to shop more at the farmers market. We used a social marketing approach with the research leading in because we knew of several marketing programs, particularly public health marketing programs where people are operating on a shoestring, where the programs backfired because they really didn't understand their audience to begin with. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't fall into that trap. Okay, it's still not letting me advance.
Oh, here. I think it's doing it on your, it's moving.
No, but it's not moving. I mean, it's the same.
Click, no, it's moving. Okay, now try to. Oh.
Hi, Jan.
Hi.
Jan Nappage is here with me. Okay, now I've got my,
There you go.
Okay. I hope we're all set and we won't have to go through this again. Okay, so social marketing uses the same kinds of marketing technologies and theories as regular commercial marketing, except the idea behind it is to change behavior. We want to promote social good by changing some kind of behavior. This has been used for various things in public health, promoting breastfeeding, reducing incidence of smoking, increasing migrant workers' use of protective eyewear, reducing incidence of spouse abuse. So it's a tried and true approach. It uses the 4 P's of marketing, just like regular commercial marketing. We try to figure out what the price is, what people are having to give up in order to do the behavior that you want them to do. Where is the best place to place your message? What should be your message? And what's your product? What are you selling? Because even you're selling some kind of behavior change. Basically, you want to understand your market and make sure that the behavior you're trying to get people to do is easy, fun, and popular. So our research consisted in the beginning with a literature review, because you don't want to plow old ground. You want to see if other people have done research in the area and what they found out about what you want to know. And then we also did focus groups with participants to find out what their perceptions were and what were barriers to them or what would encourage them to go to a farmer's market to shop. And we also did surveys. we tried to divide our counties sort of equally between metro and non-metro counties, and we tried to make sure that they were geographically dispersed. And beyond that, we were just looking for counties that had a farmer's market, and one where we had some personnel who could help us implement the research. So we did have 4 metro counties, 4 non-metro counties, and we actually had a bit more participation from metro counties than we did from non-metro counties, partially because they have higher populations by definition, and probably also because transportation is a little bit easier in those counties. But here are the counties that participated, and so you can see that they are pretty much geographically dispersed. Kentucky has a limited number of metro counties, so you're kind of stuck with a limited number of counties to choose from in that regard. But we tried to spread things out. So from our participants, the average participant was female, white, between 46 and 65 years old, had some college, was single, living in a one-person household with no children, and was a SNAP recipient. From the literature that we reviewed before we did our focus groups and surveys, we knew that farmers market patrons in general tend to be female, white, educated, in a higher income bracket, between 30 and 40 or over 40, and living in cities. So basically, the average person shopping at a farmer's market is not our target audience. So we needed to set out to find out why. One of the questions we asked in our survey was just how often our participants bought fruits and vegetables grown in their community. And you could see our responses were pretty well about a fifth, various times or various amounts that they had done that. So then we asked, well, where do you usually buy these local fruits and vegetables? And overwhelmingly, the answer was at the grocery. It might be Walmart or Kroger or Meijer, or in more rural areas, Save-A-Lot. But basically, they were shopping mostly at the grocery. But about a third of them were also shopping at the farmer's market. And then only about a fifth were shopping at roadside stands. Although we found that non-metro participants were more apt to shop at roadside stands than metro. Sprinkled all over that slide, you can see just some quotes that we took from various participants. So we asked our focus group participants what their favorite fruits and vegetables were, and then we asked them what they like to buy at the farmer's market. So the things that are their favorites are listed in descending order, and the things that they said they like to buy at the farmer's market have asterisks by them. So their favorite fruits were strawberries, bananas, watermelon, apples, and so on. And 2 of those were mentioned as things that four were mentioned as things that they like to buy at the farmer's market. Obviously, we don't have a lot of local bananas, so that kind of ruled that one out. But they like to buy green beans and tomatoes and corn, potatoes and cabbage. Cabbage wasn't necessarily a favorite, but it's a favorite thing to buy at the farmer's market, apparently. So that turned out to be actually interesting and useful information when it comes time to think about what you're going to promote at your farmer's market to attract this audience. And this is just a cool word, what do they call that, a word map?
Cloud.
Word cloud, thank you. This is a cool word cloud that our software that we use to analyze our data could generate. So the things that were said most often were the things that popped out. So corn, tomatoes, watermelon, potatoes, those were all things that people mentioned quite a bit buying at the farmers market. So according to the literature, these are the things that would encourage low-income patrons to shop at the farmers market, and they're listed in descending order. So just the opportunity to buy fresh produce was the number one thing, and then higher quality and taste of produce was the next. Then coupons or matching benefits, like our Double Dollars program, opportunities to socialize, opportunities to interact with the farmers, variety, promotional events and activities. Everyone loves samples. We heard sample, sample, sample. But they like food demos and cooking classes as well. And lastly, support for local farmers. Excuse me. So we took our survey results, asking those same questions, and kind of put it up next to the order of mentions in literature. And so access to fresh fruits and vegetables and variety were still, the top two, really high up there. But then for Kentucky, low-income Kentuckians, the ability to know where their food comes from and to support local farmers was very important, whereas looking at it on a national stage, that was much lower and wasn't even mentioned in national literature as far as knowing where their food comes from. So I found that to be extremely interesting. And taste was number 2 in the literature, but it was like number 5, although it was still 93.4, so it was still up there. But those are just some things that are noteworthy about our particular audience. So we asked the focus groups, what's good about shopping at the farmers market? And these are the responses that we got, again, in descending order. So the number one thing that people said was quality. In Campbell County, this participant said, I think whenever I buy strawberries from a farmer's market versus the store, I think they're much sweeter, just taste better. And then a Davies County participant said, they're competitive, so I like that variety of choice. And I think when she said competitive, she didn't mean price-wise. I think she meant that all the vendors were bringing some of the same things, so that she had a variety of beans, for instance, to choose from. And a Wayne County participant said, and it's local. It's local people who grow their vegetables. And someone in Jefferson County said, I like to buy there because they don't use pesticides and chemicals usually on their fruits and vegetables. So we found a little bit of confusion among our participants about locally grown and that locally grown meant organic. So that might work for you, or it might work against you, I'm not sure. So continuing with the hierarchy, affordability, social aspects, convenience, and EBT acceptance were the next things that were mentioned. So one Fayette County participant said, I like it because they take food stamps. But then, a Jefferson County participant said, I also like the fact of the personal nature of shopping there. They take more time with their customers, and they really take the time to answer questions that you might have about the fruits and vegetables. And another person from Jefferson County thinks that farmers markets are cheaper than going to some of the other places that they've talked about. So that's a little bit different from the stereotype that we usually labor under, I think. So this is kind of interesting. What we did here was to break the responses from the metro participants and the non-metro participants out. So the blue line is, if you will, your more rural participants, and the brown one is people who lived in more metropolitan areas. So in a lot of things, they were very close. Free samples, for instance, were mentioned the same number of times in both, in response to that question. Choice in quantity was another thing that they weren't too far apart on. But some things were pretty big differences. Quality was very high for both of them. But metropolitan participants mentioned the health more often than the non-metro folks did. Non-metro participants were more interested in food being locally sourced. And notice that metro participants were more likely to mention farmers markets being affordable and EBT being accepted. And that could be because of this. At the time that we started our research, this was the location of the farmers markets and whether they accepted EBT or not, to the best that we were able to figure out. And we spent a lot of time generating this map. But you can see that more farmers markets did not accept SNAP than accepted SNAP, and that very rural counties like Caldwell, Grayson, Wayne were less apt to have markets that accepted SNAP. So that's a very real concern for folks in those counties. And this is where roadside farm stands were located when we started doing the research. And very few of the roadside stands accepted SNAP at that time. And as I mentioned earlier, non-metro participants were much more apt to shop at a roadside stand than a metro participant. There just aren't as many of those, I guess, in the city. But folks that did shop at the roadside stands were very interested in being able to use their EBT benefits there. So another word cloud related to barriers, time, money, places, people, prices, all issues that we heard a lot about. The top barriers mentioned according to our survey were, number 1, no coupons, number 2, too expensive, number 3, not easy, number 4, inconvenient hours, and number 5, no EBT accepted. So, if you notice, 3 of those top 5 are really related to money and to affordability. No coupons, too expensive, no EBT accepted. So then when we crosswalked what our survey responses were with what the literature said, coupons, lack of coupons, and things not being affordable were the number 1 thing, both with our Kentucky audience and in the literature. But there were some differences. It being easy to get there, so accessibility, or the farmers market hours, which is another aspect of accessibility. Those were still 3 and 4. But like the farmers market is far from where I live was the second thing listed in the literature, but it was pretty far down there for us. So I don't know that there's anything else there that really bears a lot of mention right there. Here are just some quotes of what some of our audience told us about barriers. One person said they wouldn't go if SNAP wasn't available. One person said, yeah, but to me, the one farmers market we have here is inconvenient for a whole lot of people because it's at one end of town. And this next one is my very favorite quote from all of the focus groups. This person says, and who wants to clear their calendar to go get some peas? Like, I have to take off half the day to go to this market that's going to take me about an hour and a half to get to the peas. That played into several things that we found out. So here again, we looked at metro versus non-metro responses and saw some real differences. The concern about days and hours of operation was a non-metro or rural issue. Not accepting EBT, not surprisingly, was much more a non-metro issue. But folks that lived in the city were more concerned with what they considered to be a lack of cleanliness at the market. And I'm supposing that this is because people that live in more rural areas are more comfortable with the fact that food is grown in the ground and it's going to probably be dirty. But there was also just a theme of people wanting the farmer's market, it seemed like, to be a lot more like the grocery store. You'll hear that and see it come up again and again. Two of the barriers were statistically significant in the difference between rural and metro responses, and many more non-metro or rural participants said that they don't shop at the farmer's market because they don't accept EBT, and that's probably pretty valid considering that a lot of the non-metro counties where we conducted our research did not have a market that accepted EBT. And also, though, more non-metro folks said, I don't feel welcome at the farmer's market. So there was this kind of perception that that was an upper crust kind of thing to do with your Saturday, I think. So one thing that we did was to show our focus group participants pictures of actual Kentucky farmers markets and say, what makes you want to buy fruits and vegetables here? Just to get a feel for people's perceptions. And again, in descending order, the motivators were appearance, atmosphere, cleanliness, labeling and signage, and layout. And as I had mentioned before about folks wanting their produce to look like it did in the grocery store, this one person said, well, they're all cleaned up. I mean, none of these carrots, which are grown in the dirt, have dirt on them. This next quote, I think, is very telling. She says, I like that it says how much everything is right there, so you don't have to, ask them. We heard again and again how important signage is to helping people feel at home and feel like they know what they're doing and they don't have to stop and ask a lot of questions. It made them feel much more welcome to see those signs. And layout was another thing that we got a lot of feedback on. This particular respondent said, everything is organized and it looks put together. So our folks liked it when things were in little baskets and things were, clearly labeled and neatly pulled together. And not just at the booth, they really liked it when the flow of the market was good. They didn't like a bunch of crowds. They didn't want to be all smushed together. They perceived that as not being a safe environment. So we can pay some attention to flow. Again, continuing in descending order, other things they mentioned were unwelcoming vendors, child concerns, and crowds, which almost go together, vendor appearance, and produce appearance. A Davis County participant said, looking at this picture, she says, they're all just checking her out, wondering, hey, are you stealing that vegetable today or are you going to buy it? Another person said, it's too many people. My child would get lost somewhere. And along those same lines, it's crowded. So if we were in a rush maybe or just needed to grab one thing, it seems like it would be kind of chaotic. It's not organized. So those themes about good flow in the market, good traffic flow and safety, and a welcoming feeling to the market. So we asked people, how would you like to buy fruits and vegetables at the farmer's market if things were just right? So it was almost sort of, you know, tell us about your fantasy farmer's market where you would want to shop. And the number one response that we got was advertising and awareness. A lot of people just said that they had no idea that they even had a farmer's market in their county until one person said, until I took part in this focus group, I didn't know. And then they need to become, well, location. They need to be able to get there. They need to know that EBT is going to be accepted. They need to know the hours of operation. And when you look at this list, I mean, it really seems so logical, doesn't it? First of all, they need to know that there is one. But they also need to know where it is. They need to know when it's going to be open. They need to know that when they get there, they're going to be able to buy things. And all that is just so, it seems like it should be so perfectly obvious. But there have been an awful lot of farmers markets out there operating that low-income Kentuckians didn't even know about. So here's a little bit more. When discussing the ideal farmers market, EBT acceptance was mentioned 32 times, mostly by non-metro participants. In metro counties, the things that were mentioned more often were extras like entertainment, a place to sit and socialize, the ability to buy prepared foods, and that kind of thing. And packaging and labeling. They mentioned lots of times they don't want to have to search for prices or ask what it is. Have it labeled so I can see what different types of fruits and vegetables might be. Some quotes about describing your ideal farmers markets. One person said, if something like that were available in the community, then people should know about it. You know what I mean? I had no idea there even was a farmers market until I was asked to join this study, and I started asking about it for myself. I mean, communication is a big key, too. And another person thought it would be great if you could just walk to the farmers market. Just open your door and start walking. And again, hours of operation. And I know that there's a limited amount that you can do as far as changing your hours of operation in the farmer's market, but I think that's a very legitimate concern because a lot of low-income Kentuckians work service jobs where they're working on evenings and weekends, when the farmer's market might typically be open. This is interesting. This person says, convenience of the location. I think it's nice that they're all kind of outside, but then with just all those kids, it's easier in a grocery store. I can park easily. I can be in and out. Another person said, make sure they've got what you come for. Then, of course, price was another thing that was mentioned, and variety. And this is, I think, real key. This person says, a large variety, the price is marked, and you can buy it by the pound or buy it per piece. And so you can buy the amount you want, and that they take food stamps. And that's another thing that when you look back on it, you think kind of should be common sense, but maybe we haven't thought of it, is that if you have a very limited amount of money to spend for your groceries for the week, you can't afford to buy a large amount of one thing because then you don't have enough money for other things that you might need. So being able to buy 1 or 2 tomatoes and a cucumber and some lettuce, a little bit separately is a big help to low-income folks. So we put all that together in, this is our product that resulted. It's the Farmers Market Toolkit, and you've already seen one Farmers Market Toolkit today. But this is the Farmers Market Toolkit for marketing to the low-income audience in Kentucky. it's a whole different take. Everything that's in this toolkit, it comes directly from our research and from what we were told by our focus group and survey participants. We started out with a marketing presentation because we realized there's a secondary audience, that if folks, the farmers market board, the vendors, the farmers market manager and leadership don't believe that it's worth their time to market to the low-income audience, the point is moot. So we put together a brief PowerPoint, much briefer than what I just gave to you, that kind of tells about the toolkit and about our research leading up to it. And also there's a bifold handout that can be used. There is an assessment, and we talked about assessments earlier. This assessment, there again, comes directly from what we were told. So it is not by any means intended to keep people in compliance with regulations or any of those sorts of things, or to be in any way all-inclusive. But it just helps the market figure out if their market would be well perceived by the low-income audience. There are sections on accepting food and nutrition benefits, which mostly just tell people how do you go through applying for those if you are not accepting them already, and how might you raise funds to launch those programs if you want to. The same thing with developing incentive programs. How do you raise funds? How do you make community partners that might help with those? There's a section on addressing access. There's a section on market appearance and safety. And there again, it's not intended so much to keep you in compliance with things, although it does give you some resources for that, but more to tell you something about how the low-income audience perceives appearance and safety. There's a whole section on signage, labeling, and packaging. And then we have marketing resources that have been vetted with our audience, so we know that they're giving out the right vibe and the right information and are perceived well by our audience. There's a section on establishing community partnerships, promoting interaction between vendors and shoppers, and then there's an evaluation, which is really an extension thing, although everybody should want to know if changes they made got them the results that they want. And there are a bunch of additional resources and references. So this is what the assessment looks like, except I think it's about 11 pages long. So obviously every market is not going to do everything that's suggested in that assessment. It's just to provide you with a starting point and to give you some ideas about whatever changes you might like to make. Here is our most general poster, and it's a template that can be filled in with your market's information, and it's been filled in here just as an example, and then can be printed off. So we decided to highlight local and fresh, since those were two of the things that are very important to our audience here in Kentucky. And you notice it has room for days and time of operation, and there's room for anything that might be a benefit and might attract our audience. Here we have said take the bus or park free at Hometown Baptist Church. We heard a lot of concerns about parking in our research. A lot of people said they couldn't park at their markets, or they didn't think that the traffic flow was safe. And that's a place where you might be able to partner with a community partner to provide parking. And if you've got those sorts of benefits, then tell people up front and let them know if you accept EBT or WIC or senior farmers market benefits, or if there are any double dollars or anything like that. And then we've got an in-season now section where you can list the things that you have for sale that you know they like watermelon, tomatoes, and sweet corn. We also knew that it was affordability and freshness were big issues with our audience. So we developed 2 more posters that really stress those things. Actually, these templates have been updated since I put this slide together. We have provided a place for you to put location and hours of operation and any kinds of benefits that you accept in the template. We kind of forgot to put those on there, and then we, just before we piloted them, we said, wait a minute. We just spent a lot of time telling people that it's absolutely crucial to get that information on your posters, and then we left it off. But the one is intended to help people understand that it's not always more expensive to shop at the farmer's market. You can get the farmer's market average costs off of the Center for Crop Diversification website, and that address is in the toolkit. And the grocery store, you probably have to do a little bit more sleuthing around for your local prices to get those prices. We found that people were concerned with not feeling like they didn't know how to prepare the produce. So we developed these little produce cards that are also online and can be printed off and made available. If you have cantaloupe at your stand, then you could make this card available, and it just tells people when's a good time to buy cantaloupe, when's it in season, and how do you choose a good cantaloupe? How do you know? And then once you get home with it, how do you store it? How do you prepare it? So that's intended to help people buy with a little bit more confidence if they're not familiar with fresh produce. Then we had a little bit of money available this year. We don't know if we will be able to keep producing this, but we used a little bit this year, and we've got some for next year too. And it's a little shopper's guide that we put together that addressed in a little bit more depth some of those same issues that we wanted to address with the cards, but we couldn't get the cards too cluttered. People said they wanted recipes, but we didn't have room on the card for a recipe. So the brochure, we took the 10 kinds of produce that people most said they like to buy at the farmer's market, and we gave recipes for those things. We gave the information about how you shop for it, how you choose a good one, how you store it, how you prepare it, and even if it can be frozen or dried or canned, and how to get information on how to do that. This little booklet also includes some tips for shopping at the farmer's market and things that people need to know, like how to convert pounds to household measurement. So often we would hear people say, well, I've got this recipe, but I don't know how many pounds, how many potatoes is a pound or whatever. So it helps them convert those sorts of things. Provides nutrition information as well, which is something that people said they wanted when we vetted the cards. And then back to signage, packaging, and labeling. This is an example of some signage that you could have that would help people know, for instance, about how many tomatoes would be a pound. So you have the price per pound, but also it maybe gives them the option to buy 1 or 2. You see in the picture, this gal has her EBT acceptance clearly labeled, and it's sticking up in the air where people can see it, so they don't have to ask. If you're accepting EBT, especially if people have to convert to tokens or something, it's really important to have that signage up high where everybody can see it when they come in, so they know where to go and what to do, and they don't have to wander around feeling out of place and clueless. Again, packaging, giving people the option to buy small amounts. You might try bundling, like make a salad kit or a salsa kit or something like that. So those are some things that are covered in the signage and packaging and labeling section. Back to other marketing resources relating to affordability. We have the poster we talked about earlier, but we also have 3 different trifold brochures that explain those particular benefits and how to use them at their local market. Let's see. And all of these are available through your county extension agent. In the toolkit is, originally I wanted to do handouts that were like spring produce, and then how to select it, how to store it, how to prepare it, and then what recipes, what plated up Kentucky Proud recipes we had for those. But it was going to be such an unwieldy kind of a handout. It wasn't going to be easy to carry around or anything like that, and it was going to be, for the low income audience, sometimes a lot of information bunched up like that is overwhelming, and we just couldn't get it in a format that we were happy with. But in the toolkit itself, we do have that information, just in case you are wanting to use some of the plated up Kentucky Proud recipes and it's early in the season and asparagus is available. Then it kind of tells you, okay, here are some recipes that you could use to promote your asparagus. We put together a little sampling handout. Our audience told us again and again, at the ideal farmers market, there would be sampling. So this little handout just has a little quick checklist of equipment needed. It gives safe sampling guidelines and tells you how to assemble a sampling kit so that you're ready to go very quickly every market day. People wanted the market to be a fun family experience. They wanted to be able to bring their kids and let the kids help choose the vegetables and fruits. So we have these little game cards, if you will, that can be printed off. And we actually borrowed these from the University of Tennessee with their permission. We might not have as many peaches as they might have in Tennessee, but at any rate, these are some things that are available for use. So, if you're interested in using the Farmers Market Toolkit, here is an area agent map. We have nutrition education program agents who are familiar with this program and who know all the agents in the various counties that are under their that are in their assignment. And you can find your county on there and figure out who your NEP area agent is. And then here are their contact information. Basically, it's just their name with @uky.edu. There is also a website there where you can find your county agent. Down at the bottom, you might want to jot that down if you don't already know your county agent or don't know the phone number for your county extension office. And there is a handout that provides you with a list of all the extension agents and folks, in addition to this, who have had our training. You've got 2 lists, and one is a list of folks who have taken what we called a deeper dive. It was an all-day training, and they are most familiar with the program, but there's an additional list of people who have had a Zoom training similar to what you just got today, and they would be familiar with it, but they would know any agent should know that they have access to this resource and how to get to it. So hopefully that will with some ideas.
Yeah, that handout is posted here. You should see it in your control panel. You just click on that and download it, and then you can open that, and that is for you to have. If you have any trouble with that, I can also email that to you.
Thank you, Margie. And thank you, folks, for bearing with me.
Are there any questions? All right, while you all are thinking about that, I'm going to relaunch the poll that I erroneously gave you at the beginning. And let's see. Just to see which of the UK Farmers Market Toolkit resources do you think would be most useful? And if you could all click on all that apply. All right, it looks like most of you think that the marketing information and resources would be helpful, as well as the information on establishing community partnerships and finding funding. That is an ongoing challenge, so I'm not surprised that popped up there. The assessment tool is another one that folks thought would be helpful. So one more chance to ask questions. You either can raise your hand or go down to the questions box. Okay, well, it looks like that's it, unless I'm missing something. Jennifer, are you seeing a question that I'm not seeing?
I don't see anything.
Okay, well, thank you all for
wait.
coming today. And what, you got a question?
Oh, no, actually, Suzanne was telling us thanks. Thank you, Suzanne, for participating.
Yes. So thank you all for coming today, and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel in case you have somebody in your market who you think would benefit from it but wasn't able to attend today. So thank you all and have a great week. Bye.
Bye.